all very welcome. Tonight is a national kind of night. It's called Culture Night. And all over the country tonight there are events taking place in centres, cultural centres, galleries, music, etc., etc. And this is Tuam's presentation for the Culture Night. And first of all, let's have a huge round of applause for Mary O'Connor, who's put this together. The Culture Night, I think, happened some years ago. I know it was in 2006 or something, when there was money in the country. And the galleries decided they'd be nice and open up for free. But none of people like me from Mayo would go to those places because they're very hoity-toity, you know, watching the theatre and going to galleries and stuff. But in Tuam it's not like that, because we're people from Barnajarrig and we're people from, you know, from the real Ireland here tonight. Okay, we have, we're going to start with not at the moment, two wonderful artists from Barnajarrig, All-Ireland winners from the Flag Hole in Derry, so we'll be introducing those in a minute. We have the wonderful Mary Ralph. She was Mary O'Dwyer before she got married, but we know her as Mary Ralph, and she'll be doing Midterm Break, a poem made famous, well, a poem written by Seamus Heaney, and it's a wonderful tribute on a night of culture to do that. Pádraig Stevens, of course, from Churchview, will be with us. Wayne Dunn, who's a poet and certainly one of the most sincere people you're going to meet around here tonight anyway. Leah Rosner. Leah is an exchange student from Germany, and she's here with a bunch of friends from Spain and Switzerland and European countries. PJ King, the songwriter. Dan Traer is the singer-songwriter. We have John Brogan, who has come all the way from the Canaries, but originally from west of the Gates. And, isn't it amazing how life is? Only for John decided to take a plane and come from the Canaries to Tuam, we'd have no sound man. It's a very strange thing how life works. And we have Ja Fahy, Ja the optician. He fixed my eyes and haven't been the same since. I was driving to Dublin recently and I wasn't kind of praising you, Ja, or anything. I wasn't. Kevin Dwyer, of course. Kevin is going to do a piece which an audience in Galway had the pleasure of seeing earlier in the year for the Courch Literary Festival, and it was Mine Murphy, and absolutely a wonderful piece. It's about his impressions of Murphy, so we'll wait until he tells us all about that. And then finally, to close the night, we have the great John Brogan and Mary O'Connor, who grew up in this town as friends and as musical friends, and it'd be just very nice to see them do something later on. Can I open with a short piece of a poem?
Yes.
Seeing that it's Culture Night, and this is a wonderful thing I came across. I think this has been kind of quoted so often by so many people, but it's called an ode, O-D-E, and it's some guy, his name is about that long, but in there somewhere is O'Shaughnessy, and I presume in 18-something, Kevin, he would have been a West Brit, as we call them. You'd have a few quid, I'd say. You couldn't be hanging around writing poetry unless you were one of them, would you? Anyway, this is called Ode. We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams, wandering by lone sea breakers and sitting by desolate streams, world losers and world forsakers, on whom the pale moon gleams. Yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems. Okay, let's give a huge sham welcome to the beautiful people from Barnajarrig. This is Emmett Graney, under 12 All-Ireland Flag winner in Derry, and his sister Emily. Emily plays the harp and concertina. So let's have a go. absolutely fabulous, age 12, or under 12 rather. And Sister Emily, and my God, it kind of stuns you, doesn't it, really? That kind of talent. And it's only out the road, Bernard Jarrick. And an All-Ireland winner. As a Mayo man, I wish we had that over and done with, really. I wish we had it over and done with. Okay. We're joined here now by Mary Rafe, and Mary, of course, has been part of the art scene, it's called, in tune for quite a long time, in pantos and plays. I remember seeing her one time down the Taj doing a one-woman show. I forget the name of it. It was an amazing thing altogether. Face Licker, yeah. Face Licker what? Face Licker Home. Yeah, it was an extraordinary piece of work anyway. And I've seen her in many things besides. But tonight, Mary's going to be humble and do something else for a change. She's going to do that wonderful poem by Seamus Heaney, and for people from the European countries there, Seamus Heaney was our national poet. I don't know whether you're aware of that or not, but he died recently. He was a Nobel Prize winner and very treasured poet here in this country, so that's who wrote this particular piece here. Alright, let's hear it from Mary Rafe.
Thanks very much. Midterm break. I sat all morning in the college sick bay, counting bells, nailing classes to a close. At 2 o'clock, our neighbours drove me home. In the porch, I met my father, crying. He had always taken funerals in his stride, and Big Jim Evans saying, it was a hard blow. The baby cooed and laughed and rocked the pram when I came in. And I was embarrassed by old men standing up to shake my hand and tell me they were sorry for my trouble. Whispers informed strangers I was the eldest away at school, as my mother held my hand in hers and coughed out angry, tearless sighs. At 10 o'clock, the ambulance arrived with the corpse, stanched and bandaged by the nurses. Next morning, I went up to my room. Snowdrops and candles soothed the bedside. I saw him for the first time in 6 weeks, paler now, wearing a poppy black bruise on his left temple. He lay in the 4-foot box, as in his cot. No gaudy scars. The bumper knocked him clear. A 4-foot box, a foot for every year. Thank you.
Okay, that was Mary Rafe there, and Midterm Break, a poem by Seamus Heaney, and to tell us an amazing story, the poem itself, as you heard. I wasn't feeling well when Mary O'Connor got in touch with me to do this, and she said to me, she's better than a doctor. She says, there'll be lights on you and you'll have a microphone. And immediately I began to feel better. For an attention seeker, it's a great place to be. So it is. Pádraig Stevens is next. I asked Pádraig, was there anything special? He said no, but we know there is. Pádraig has been writing songs in this town for so long and has inspired so many people, and almost is the founder of a particular kind of genre of music here, and we've all been basically very, very much inspired by what Pádraig has done. So Pádraig, let him introduce the songs. You're welcome, Dan Triers. With the people out the back there, please come in and be part of this. Okay, let's hear it from Pádraig Stevens.
I did a thing, I went and I opened up the dictionary. I searched to find the dictionary, I haven't used it for a long time. and I looked up the word cultural. There was a couple of meanings to cultural in the dictionary. The first one was my favourite. It says it's tilling of the soil, agriculture, and it's also the production of bees. It's also the production of oysters, fish, silk, and bacteria. And then there's the other meaning, the improvement of by mental and physical training, or intellectual development, etc., etc. And I thought about the place where we're standing. And there's been the word Tuam came from a tumulus that was found down behind the old library, which was a ritual urn for burial of people of the Neolithic age, which was before Christ or before the Romans. There have been people having rituals and honouring their dead for eons in this area, and we're still doing it today. There's an old culture in this place. We take it all for granted till we're reminded when some weary travellers coming home again. Home from Mass, home for the stations, home from United Nations, home for the celebrations, home for the apple trees, the Ballygaddy breeze, little things you miss when you leave home. Walking on Glass Avenue, top of Jolly Church View, hearing all the news going round in Tuam. Home from England, home from the bog, home where the heart always belongs. All that came and all that went, all the travellers in their tents, blessings of God all heaven sent. All the churches, the high cross, funerals and tragic loss, the little miracles of Tuam. October fairs, the bargains, bike repair, breaking out, going on the tail. Down all the ages, down all the days, all the centuries of change. A tumulus, a running stream, legend of a broken wheel, Jarlath following his dream home. A castle, a severed hand, fighting over bits of land. We'll say no more, shall everything is grand. Sometimes I think it's strange how the names and generations change, but the same old stuff keeps going on in Tuam. Home from the factory, home from school, home where the heart is always Tuam. Worried about bills to pay, would you like a cup of tea? Going uptown on a Saturday, bars up the skate, nightclubs all are open late. I saw you in the Herald, looking great. And all the local heroes, we know them well, no they live near us. Wait for all the slag and slang and tune. Coupla fuckle, ate the hunger fain, Shan Changan and Gwael. Hogam Kololev got in ya, low the pluking Gaelga, a chum gargoyle la golden chum. We take it all for granted, tell where the minded went. Some weary travellers home again. Home from England, home from the bog, home where the heart always belongs. Down all ages, down all the days, and all the centuries of change. Home from the factory, home from school, home where the heart is always true. It's always, that's what the chill people. That's a very cultural round of applause. Thank you.
Up to
May read the Seamus Heaney poem, and there was another Seamus Heaney poem called The Given Note, which is kind of like him talking about what it's like to go down into the deepest, darkest part of yourself and find some inspiration and creativity to write something and bring it back in a form that's legible to somebody. He kind of used that image of music. The most westerly blasket in a dry stone hut. He got this air out of the night. Strange noises were heard by others who followed. Bits of a tune coming in on loud weather. Done nothing like melody. He blamed their fingers and ears as unpracticed. They're fiddling easy, for he had gone alone into the island and brought back the whole thing. His house throbbed like his full violin. Whether he calls it spirit music or not, I don't care. He got it out of wind off mid-Atlantic. Still, he maintains from nowhere. It comes off the bow gravely, rephrases itself into the air. Seamus Heaney. Wayne Dunn is going to come on now, but I'll do one song before that. My friend Tony Small was the first man I ever knew who had written a song. He came to live in Tuam a few years ago, but he passed away early this year. even after he died, this came to me, and it's kind of a tribute to my old friend Tony Small. It's called Let It Fall, and the idea is that once the song is written, all you can do is let it go, let it fall, kick it into the full forward line and hope that somebody is listening. Sound of a voice and the sacrament of song. Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. Celebrate something we've known all along. Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. Falling like an asteroid. Falling, let it fall. Is anybody out there listening at all, at all? Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. The feel of falling on deaf ears, fleckened off and gone. Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. Falling like an asteroid. Falling, let it fall. Mysteries of rhythm and of what the next bit's called. Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. All the time it takes to tell a tale like Tony Small. Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. Asteroid falling, let it fall. Sound of a voice and the sacrament of song. Let it fall, let it fall, let it fall. Thanks, Dan, for the help.
Yeah, pull over there. Pull over there.
How are things, Marie?
Okay, let's hear a big round of applause for Porrick Stevens, and thank you so much. Okay, as Leo Moran from a famous band would say, are you enjoying it so far? No? No? Great. Okay, we're going to continue with Wayne Dunn, and Wayne is a poet that has come to light really. Well, a poet doesn't just come to light, but he's been obviously writing for many years. But just in recent times, Wayne has begun to perform in public, and he has touched people with a sincerity for a start, and the themes that he chooses to write about, which are love, loss, and of course the one that always goes with that at the end of the day, hope. So let's hear it for Wayne Dunn.
How are you? Well, I'd like to thank Mary O'Connor for inviting me to this great get-together of performers and poets, musicians, etc. I'm going to read 3 of my poems and explain a little about the meaning of behind each one. I usually write when I have things on my mind and that I need to offload onto the poor unfortunate listeners. So a lot of my poems contain themes of love, loss and hope that Seamus spoke about. And the first poem is called Enlightenment, and it was written in January, and it signalled the end of one year and the beginning of another, so it contained a lot of hope. And a lot of the baggage of the previous year was taken off my shoulders. So I'm going to start. It's called Enlightenment. Sitting on a park bench beside an old oak tree, there I begin to ponder and analyse my history. It's much easier delete than to copy and paste photos containing memories that leave a bitter taste. You see, I lit the fuse that caused my bridges all to burn. Love I have not gained, but a valuable lesson learned. My life's an open book within which lovers enroll. Its pages contain my secrets, lets them see into my soul. Always seeking someone with as beautiful a mind, the soul's counterpoint in another is a rare and special find. Much like that old oak tree, names engraved upon its bark, I liken it to my own skin, the names of exes on my heart. Last year is finally over, where my aura lost its gloom. Flowers soon will blossom, trees will adorn a wig of green. As I leave this park bench, my mind a lot more at ease, for the answer lies within me, the cure for my disease. I have a creak in my neck, constantly looking behind, but the new year beckons, and enlightenment I will find. Thank you. I've been criticised by my portrayal of women in their late 30s, early 40s. I've been criticised. What have I started? Let's go to the next one. I'd like to add that there is an awful lot of pressure on women in Ireland to marry and have children. And although I come across a little bit bitter in this poem, because I fell out of love with one of those women, or rather she fell out of love with me, so I empathise rather than criticise with these women. This is called, wait for it, Mutton Dressed as Lamb. Your friends tell you it's younger looking you're getting, but the lines on your face tell me your sun is setting. You sit at the bar with 3 single friends, your past not forgotten, too late to make amends. Little girls that mature when daddy's drinking at home, fall for the bad guys, it's all that they've known. At the end of the night, in Gehagan's back bar. It's there you become false, concealing life's scars. Innocence personified with the coldest of hearts, losing out in life's race with too many false starts. I've met similar women upstairs in the quays, whose drunken proposals sound like desperate pleas. They drink to forget regrets in their life, forever the bridesmaid, never somebody's wife. You live out your days in this dormitory town with a man who gets off on putting you down. Mary Rafe read out a Seamus Heaney poem called Midterm Break, and that was about his brother who died in an accident. And when you experience any loss or trauma at a young age, you bottle it up because you don't really understand the extent it has on you, and it eventually comes out when you approach. To me, losing my father, it didn't really affect me at the time. It kind of affected me when I was late teens, early 20s. And what Seamus Heaney did in that poem is, it poured out of him all that grief, and he was too young to understand it all. He didn't know what was going on. So when you write a poem about personal loss, it hits the listener even harder because it contains emotion and feeling. And I wouldn't be big into poetry. I'd listen to songwriters rather than poets. But Irish poets or songwriters, they have a great way of getting that feeling and raw feeling and emotion out of them. And this is for my father, it's for Dad, and I'd love to sit down. I wish he was here. I'd love to have a pint with him. Do you know, that kind of a way?
He's here.
So it's called Ode to My Father. They say you do not miss what you never have had. It's scant consolation to me, growing up without my dad. A father figure by my side would help toughen me up and steer me back on course when the sea becomes too rough. In music he found release, and the strum of his guitar would grab everyone's attention in many a crowded country bar. My dad was far from selfish, and suicide is not a crime. His sensitive mind's thoughts became a burden over time. All the years suppressing sorrow, too weary now to hide. This life was just too damaging for his kind, compassionate side. His days overcast and dark, with an absence of sunlight. So like a swallow fleeing winter, he soared skyward in full flight. God threw his arms around him and welcomed an artist into heaven. Like Kurt Cobain and Jim Morrison, he left this world aged 27. My head lies heavy on my pillow, thinking if he could only carry on. The anguish he could not speak of, I'd help him say it in a song. Thanks a million.
Okay, next up, we're going international. We've arrived in Germany, and I know we're all used to looking at Angela Merkel. I don't think she plays any music, but anyway. We have Leah Rosner, and Leah's an exchange student from Germany. She's studying at the presentation in Tuam, and she's 15 years old, and she's been playing what's this called, Leah? Accordion for 10 years. So she's going to do, well, people have different names for it. I just wondered, was there a particular kind of German? I'm no Romy. But yeah, Leah's going to do 2 polkas, one from Germany and one from Bulgaria. And I don't think anybody has actually played her yet, that famous song from Tuam, a 4th year presentation border, which kind of pays respect to the school she goes to. So anyway, let's hear a huge round of applause for Leah Rosner. Originally, I think, but now lives on the beautiful scenic Dublin Road, up with near Eugene Finnegan and all this, you know. Anyway, he's going to be joined by Kevin Dwyer. Is that right, Kevin? Yeah. Okay, let's hear it for Jake.
a little song about Gilmartin Road. When I walked in England, these thoughts, this is how I remember it. Okay. Oh, I'll use that. Okay? Yeah. I've missed it while in England, my own Gilmartin Road, forever be so special, a place to call my home, so proud of all with every gift I, the train blew its whistle, hills were greener far away. We had craftsmen of all ages, templates carved in stone, with lanterns and the country road, casinos before Las Vegas, roulette, Tommy Joe, leather belts with loops and puzzles, breeders of all horses, piebald mares and foals, boxers and footballers, chimney sweep to save the home, engine drivers, station porters, for Friday's court, lawyers, monks and teachers, find a lady, try one more. I've missed it while in England, my own Gilmartin Road, forever is special, a place to call all around us, with every gift and trade, till the train blew its whistle, it were greener far away. There is a gold rush, some vacating house and home, and losing bits and pieces. Can we turn the lonely houses into castles and before, where children play wonder and can safely cross the road? Of a proud maroon and white, when the stars dance to music on my when my days are over, let me hear a sing in the moonlight at the foot of Clotho Hill. While in England, my Gilmartin Road, never be so special, a place to call my home, so proud of all with every gift far away, in the train blew its whistle, its were greener far away. This is a little song about the corporate, and we used to sing one time, and they're more racist. It's not racist anymore, but the way things go. And the Las Vegas one. Can we swim in the Cara River? It's too deep in the pool. There's just 4 feet of water at Farron's Spring Lagoon. There were Parkmore steeplechase, bucket of cold water, change losers to winning ways. Lord and that. Get your favourite colours. Oh, get your favourite colours. The Manchester race cards for the races, souvenir from a day in June, apples, pears, chocolate, and programs for the game, last few minerals for the day, bring orange and May. Our currents are fast in winter, and cool in the month of June. Mothers bathe their children on the coldest winter's day, tempered for a lifestyle that could take them far away. Mermaids shy in rushes as Gale dance to the music of Las Vegas, a ballroom of romance. And if I find her, we'll dance on the riverbank and sail to loafers on the square for a wedding band. Get your favourite colours, the Manchester race cards for the races, souvenir from a day in June, apples, pears, and programs for the game, and last few minerals for the day, bring orange and lemonade. Last few minerals for the day, bring orange and lemonade. I worked in a lot of the and spent a while outside the counter as well myself. But this is about, are you going for a jar? Right? No bother. Are you going for a jar in Dixie's bar and on a crawl round the rustic falls? You need room way down the back, the broken nose for a bit of crack. Are you going? Are you coming? Be kinda late when we get back. You coming? Are you going? It will be late when we get back. Have a chaser in gay browns, one on the house if Maureen's round. And wearing pines, you're only man. Are you going? Are you coming? Be kinda late when we get back. Are you coming? Are you going? It will be late when we get back. Congress cozy haunts up the road, reapy shannos, Billy's Joel, hares and horses cheering and dog, touch the bridge, Mary Lou the Hope. Are you going? Are you coming? Be kinda late when we get home. Are you coming? Are you going? It will be late when we get home. Prina Killa Gilligan's Lounge, Springer Snog, Gagan Sound, Coralie, Artery Sports, Cellar Bar, Broken Flat Coat. Now you going, now you coming, we come to live when we get home. You going, now you coming, now it's too late, the doors are closed.
That's culture for you, isn't it? Name check the familiar and sing about it. It's great. PJ King. Let's hear it. PJ also is a great sculptor and works with metal and wood, and he writes all kinds of poetry and stuff, so it's wonderful. Okay, I'm going to do a song called New Boots, New Shoes. Was it cool, cool breeze down the circle of storms? And up for the storm. From the ancestor bones. And it's a now the rain came down on this wall-trodden town. That's great. Let's hear a round of applause for the backing vocalist down there. Particularly Martina Brogan there. Okay, the event you're attending tonight is Culture Night Tuam, and it's a national kind of an occasion, 20th September every year I think, or something around that. All the kind of people involved in culture open their doors and ask the people of Ireland to celebrate culture. Most of it we wouldn't bother with anyway, but the stuff in Tuam is good. So, Mary O'Connor, let's hear a round of applause for Mary O'Connor.
That was an Arthur's Day, isn't it?
Absolutely. Arthur Guinness Day. Alright, listen, it's great to welcome a guy who has travelled from the Canaries here. And he left here years and years ago. And left it all behind him. And has done brilliantly for himself in the Canaries. And somebody isn't together here, and I don't think it's me.
It's the second tab. Is that the other side of the page?
Oh, that's the other side of the page. Okay. Part one is over, folks. And I'm just going to leave you guessing who that guy from the Canaries is. It was all well planned. For God's sake, it was all well planned. You know? Absolutely no chance of my arm there whatsoever. Okay, as we close the first part of this, let's hear it for Emily Graney and her brother, rather, Emmett Graney. They were brilliant to open the show here. Mary Rafe, Porrick Stevens, Wayne Dunn, Leah Rosner, PJ King, and Sun Mushroom Park Morgan. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Up Mayo.
After midnight, searching for you. I walk for miles along the highway. Well, that's just my way of saying I love you. I go out walking after midnight, searching for you. I stop to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. But as the sky turns gloomy, nighttime whispers to me, I'm lonesome as I can be. I go out walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just hoping you may be somewhere out walking after midnight, searching for me.
Martina, come on, one more. Mart. Martina.
I know, I'm taller than you. We know that one.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom. may be parted, there is still a chance that they may see. There will be an answer. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Oh, let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be.
Holy what a mess.
I hope you remember the words.
What is Christy here?
Young man will dance and he dances. Worn out shoes, silver hair, ragged shirt, baggy pants. Your soft shoes jump so high, jump so high. Then it like touchdown. Met him in the bar in New Orleans, I did. He was down and out. He looked to me to be the eyes of age. He spoke right out, shook his head, shook his head. Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles, dance. Called me to 15 years I was daughterly. Traveled about, shows of county fairs throughout the South. It's dark up and down, up and down. After 20 years, still bleed. Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles danced. He said I'd dance if I had a chance to come. Drinks and tips. Most of the time I spend behind these prison bars. 'Cause I drinks a bit. Shook his head, shook his head. As he did, I heard someone passing say please. Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles, Mr. Bojangles.
Yes, indeed. Woo! Mr. Bojangles. Welcome. And the Burke, you're this close.
I don't know
Do a song myself, will I?
Yes,
I'll do
John.
one myself. For the quack. I have to sit down with the most strap.
I do.
Get the bigger one, Sean. Told you. Get the other shot.
Motorhead, let me, you know. You're wild, like. Oh, wow. Don Henley, I'm a big fan of the Eagles. A lot of people are. There's a song called The End of the Innocence. It's just go on.
I'm on your knees now to sing this tune.
Remember when the days were long, we rode beneath the deep blue skies. Didn't have a care in the world with mommy and daddy standing by. Happily ever after played, we've been poisoned by these fairy tales. Lawyers dwell in small details since the daddy had to fly. Oh, but I know a place where we can go, still untouched by man. We'll sit and watch the clouds roll by, the tall grass waves in the wind. Or you can lay your head back on the ground, let your hair fall all around me, offer up your best defense. This is the end. If you know what, sing it. This is the end of the innocence. This microphone was drinking, yeah. Oh yes, I knew it. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, but now those skies are threatening. They're bleeding plowshares into swords for that title man we elected king. Armchair warriors often fail. We've been poisoned by these fairy tales. Lawyers dwell on small details since daddy had to lie. Oh, but I know a place where we can go, wash away the sin. We'll sit and watch the clouds roll by, tall grass waves in the wind. Oh, you can lay your head back on the ground, let your hair fall all around me, offer up your best defense. This is the end. This is the end. Sing it. Of the innocent. Who knows how long this will last, and how we've come so far so fast. Somewhere back there in the dust, that same small town in each of us. I need to remember this, so babe, just give me one last kiss. Let me take a long last look before we say goodbye. Oh, but I know a place where we can go, still untouched by men. We'll sit and watch the clouds roll by, tall grass waves in the wind. Or you can lay your head back on the ground, let your hair fall all around me, offer up your best defense. This is the end. Come on. This is the end. One more time. This is the end of the innocent. The microphone's been drinking, not me. going to do something with Paul Brady.
But
Yes.
Nice one.
Remember it?
Snow outside in the winter dawn. There's a blizzard blowing in from the river. There's 10 below out on the city streets, and the feeling in your heart is even colder. Sunlight screeching down the line. Fire banks running out of time. It won't be here when they pretend tomorrow. You're tired of dreaming someone else's dreams. You really don't include you any longer. Nights from home you're sliding down each day. You need a woman's love to make you stronger. Lately you've been getting doubts. Voice inside keeps calling out, and someone else's dreams don't get you nowhere. So shut the suitcase, kiss the year goodbye. Don't let nobody stop you at the doorway. And close the shutters on this empty room. These crazy dreams come crawling to devour you. Woo! Head on across that line. She's been waiting all this time. And tell her that you wanna hear forever. It's still 2 hours till this plane gets down. Can hardly bear to wait another minute. Yes, sweet loving, babe, is all that I need. Darling, it's been building up inside of me. Tonight we're gonna paint this town. Drink champagne till the fall down. And find some other crazy dream tomorrow. I'll do one more and we'll call a singer. How's that? I'd like to do a song by Billy Joel. Anybody like? Yeah. This is a song called The New York State of Mind. Some folks like to get away, take a holiday from the neighborhood. Hop a flight to Miami Beach out of Hollywood. I'm taking a Greyhound on the Hudson River line. don't wanna waste more time. I'm in a New York state of mind. It was so easy living day by day, out of touch, the rhythm and blues. But now I need a little give and take. The New York Times, the Daily News. Comes down to reality, it's fine with me, I can let it slide. Don't care if it's Chinatown or the Riverside. I have no reasons, I've left them all behind. I'm in a New York state of mind.
But it wasn't me, someone
It was so easy living day by day, out of touch, the rhythm and blues. But now I need a little give and take. The New York Times, the Daily News. It's fine with me, I can let it slide. I don't care if it's Chinatown or the Riverside. Don't have any reasons, I don't want to waste no time. I'm in a New York state of mind. Don't have any reasons, don't wanna waste no time. I'm in a New York state of I'm going to call our singers tonight. Will you keep your hands clapping for Mary O'Connor? Yes.
One, two. 1, 2.
Come on, Mary.
Thanks, Wayne. Mary, I could have
A song from James Taylor. The sun is surely sinking down, but the moon is surely rising. This old world will still keep spinning round, and I still love you. Close your eyes, you can close your eyes, it's alright. I don't don't know no love songs, and I can't sing the blues anymore. But I can sing this song, and I can sing this song when I'm gone. Won't be long before another day. We're gonna have a good time. No one's gonna take that time away. You can stay as long as you like. Close your eyes. You can close your eyes, it's alright. And I don't know no love songs, and I can't sing the blues anymore. You can sing this song, and I can sing this song when I'm gone.
Thank you.
Close your eyes. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. I live upstairs from you. Yes, I think you've seen me before. If you hear something late at night, some kind of trouble, some kind of fight, just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. I think it's 'cause I'm clumsy. I try not to talk too loud. Maybe it's because I'm crazy. I try not to act too proud. They only hit until you cry, and after that you don't ask why. You just don't argue anymore. You just don't argue anymore. You just don't argue anymore. Yes, I think I'm okay. I walked into the door again. If you ask, that's what I'll say. And it's not your business anyway. I guess I'd like to be alone. Nothing broken, nothing thrown. Just don't ask me how I am. Just don't ask me how I am. Just don't ask me how I am. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. I live upstairs from you. Yes, I think you've seen me before. If you hear something late at night, some kind of trouble, some kind of fight, just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. Just don't ask me what it was. They only hit until you cry, and after that you Folks, Mary.
Where's the MC?
Okay, I do a song especially for Martina, my sister. She loves this song. Don't worry, it's early days yet, but the evening is long. Don't worry, your turn will come. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one. I know that you got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you will hurt you somehow. Don't you try the queen of diamonds, boys. She'll beat you if she's able. You know the queen of hearts is always your best bet. It seems to me some fine things have been laid upon your table, but you only want the ones you can't get. Desperado, no, you ain't getting no younger. Your pain and your hunger, they're driving you home. And freedom, oh freedom, that's just some people talking. Your prisoners walking through this world all alone. Don't your feet get cold in the winter time? Sky won't snow and the sun don't shine. It's hard to tell the night time from the day. You're losing all your highs and lows. Ain't it funny how the feeling goes away? It goes away. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? Come down from your fences. Open the gate. It may be raining, but there's a rainbow above you. You better let somebody love you. Sing it. Let somebody love you. You better let somebody love you before it's too late. Good morning, everyone. Seamus.
You serving?
That was John B. Brogan, and it's great to have him, and thank you very much, John. Let's hear it for John Brogan. We'll be getting a few more songs from John. And just wanted you to know, Jerry Goga's in the building. He's too shy to come in. Jerry Goga's in the building. Can't find Porrick Stevens. Conor Rave is knocking about. Yeah. Anyway, tonight events is a culture night. It's part of a national kind of thing where culture events are being held all over the country. And this is the Tuam. This is the official Tuam one. Michael, You would have a bit of manners when I'm talking.
What?
Would you? Put manners there when I'm talking.
Sorry, Seamus, sorry.
Thank you.
Go outside now.
Because we're talking about culture. You know, when you're talking about culture, you have to have some kind of reverence. I pretend you have. Yeah.
Culture the golfer. Talk about culture the golfer.
Okay. Next up we have Jarlath Fahy. Jarlath is an optician by trade but also a wonderful writer and poet, and he has entertained audiences at the Soundbites and many other readings in the last while. He did a wonderful one this time last year for Culture Night. So to look at life through the eyes of Jarlath Fahy, will you welcome the man himself, Jarlath?
Good evening, everybody. Now, I begin with a poem called If Life Was Only Like the Musicals. If only life was like the musicals, think of all the couples all over the world breaking into song. If only Mammy and Daddy broke into song when they were firing dishes at each other. Imagine it. Mammy throws the first plate and Daddy sings Some Enchanted Evening. From behind a chair, there's the chair. From behind a chair he has raised to protect himself. And Mammy stops, remembers the first time she saw him. You may see a stranger. And they both sing. You may see a stranger across a crowded room, and somehow you know even then that somewhere you'll see her again and again. Bad singing, but there you go. Now, it wasn't like that. It was more of a tearjerker. More Shirley Temple than the South Pacific. Don't mention the war. There we all are, on the couch, that's where we were, watching the old black and white movies, tears streaming down our faces. Shirley finds her lost daddy in the hospital, with or without a leg, with or without a memory, with or without a voice. Don't you know me, Daddy? It's me, Shirley. And he's all fucked up with the bombs exploding and gunfire and with the Civil War and with losing his one and only leg. The crutches fall from under him and he breaks down crying. He's suddenly found the power of speech and he cries, Shirley! It's little old Shirley! With a big mop of curly hair, though it's 1862, and any girl, no girl would ever leave home without having her hair in pigtails. We're all on the couch crying, and Mammy's crying, and the jelly and the ice cream's all eaten, and Daddy's yapping on about it. It's only in a film. It's only a film, he says. It's only a film, it's not real life. Would you leave them alone if they want to cry, Mammy says. As if he had a great love for reality. What did he know about reality? And he out of his head all the time. But she wouldn't let it go. It'd do you no harm to cry. And they were off. I've been crying since the day I first clapped eyes on you. There you go. Now, this is a poem about an institution I only heard exists recently. The little known Ministry of Extramarital Affairs. Your entitlements are the pre-extramarital affair counselling allowance, the condom and contraceptive allowance, the lingerie and exotic underwear allowance, the 2 nights in a 3-star hotel, or the 3 nights in a B&B every 6 months with a dinner on the evening of your choice allowance, the furnishings of a love nest allowance, the how to spice up your extramarital affair allowance, the weekend Viagra allowance with extra for Christmas, Easter and the August bank holiday. The extramarital affair children's allowance. The extramarital affair back to school allowance. The extramarital affair sex toy allowance. The extramarital affair pole dancing classes allowance. The extramarital affair aromatherapy, Indian head massage, Reiki and shamanic rites allowance. The extramarital affair compensation for disgruntled spouses and dependents allowance. The extramarital affair self-defense lessons allowance. The extramarital affair helmet allowance. The extramarital affair stab-proof vest allowance. The extramarital affair bulletproof vest allowance. The extramarital affair full body armour allowance. The extramarital affair restorative surgery allowance. The extramarital affair wheelchair allowance. The extramarital affair hitman allowance. The extramarital affair hightail it to a foreign country allowance. The extramarital affair cyanide pill allowance. The extramarital affair repair and replacement of household pets killed or mutilated due to extramarital affairs allowance. The I'll never touch another woman ever again allowance. The I'll never touch another man for as long as I live allowance. The joining a religious order allowance. Is there any way you might not collect your dole today? We're up to our limit in the overdraft and the IMF are ready to pounce. To be a great share and water. I'm down to my last packet of rashers here. And you boys have been living on caviar for years. We, the whole around our knees. I could picture them around the cabinet table, the rosary. Our country's security is at stake. All we're asking of you is that you don't collect your dole for this week. McBride, he says, all that delirium of the brave. What the fuck am I going to eat between now and next Thursday, I says. Forget about the food, haven't you got he says. Won't be famous, the man who saved Ireland from the foreign foe. Many are called, but few are chosen. The great traditional Irish, he says. Lord, the men of 90. And now, Jesus Tony says, what did you do for a living? I never worked on turn Heaney says, the Taoiseach would like to have a word with you. And lo and behold, he was alive. Tony, he says, this Brian. Go away, I says, you're pulling. He says, we're not, things are bad. All right, I says, good man. He says, join us for the bar of anyone is home. God save Ireland, said the Fenians. God save Ireland. I'll finish off with the house court. super valued Tuam, the haberdashery section. Couldn't believe my eyes. There between the pots and the buckets, the coal scuttles and the dev, with the wee small cottages on them. Beside the sets of black cats, on the walls, one cat standing, two all giant on their necks. There it was, a small coats, just like my grandmother wore. You could not with the it was used with laughter. You know, used to touch on the floors. I couldn't take my eyes to put it on. The cut of it, small red flowers, the navy colour, overwhelming feeling. The store detective didn't seem to think so. "What are you doing?" he says. He asked me, "Are you some kind of transvestite or something?" "What are you at?" "No," I says, "it's the hat coat my grandmother used to wear. Try one on. It feels so marvellous." "Yes," he says. "Jeez, it is." And he tried one on, and then the manager arrived. "What the hell is going on here?" he says. And we convinced him to try one too. Where we were, weren't we singing? There were three lovely lads banging and dancing.
I've rewritten this since the last time I visited. My mother always said, you know, be thankful for small mercies. But I don't often say this, but she was wrong. You should be thankful for big mercies as well. And I'm going to tell you about such mercies that came my way, and it involves the same person, in a sense, really. The first one is to do with general elections. And in 1982, I stood for the Dáil here in the Galway East constituency on 2 occasions, and was completely unsuccessful. Right? Never had a prayer, never had a chance. But in 2007, Paddy McHugh stood for the Dáil for the first time, and he was elected. So Paddy McHugh got one over on me. He was the first TD elected since Jim Hessian in 1951 or something like that. So looking back, I can say that that was certainly a small mercy. There was no doubt about it. And I'm delighted for Paddy McHugh. And the reason I mentioned Paddy McHugh, because he was involved in what I would regard as a big mercy. Because about, I'd say 1975, I was with the Choral Society and we were doing a concert. And they called in a professional to direct us, you know, so that we'd look good on stage. And they called in none other than Patricia King. And Patricia was making sure we were all smiling and doing the right things. And for some reason, I was in the front row, but for some reason anyhow, when it was over and done with, she decided, she saw something in me and she said, "I'd like you to join Theatrical." And she says, "We're having readings, I'm doing a couple of one-act plays, and I'd like you to come along and do a reading for a play." So we went down and there was a whole crowd down there. She was putting on a couple of one-act plays. There was a pile of people down there. And she was doing 2 of the plays I remember. One of them was Sings in the Shadow of the Glen. And the other one was Bedtime Story. And I remember her asking me to come up and read for a part in Sings in the Shadow of the Glen. It was the part of the lover, Michael Dara. And I went up, sure, I had a clue about auditions and like that, and I went up to read for the part, and sure, I made a pure Hames of it. Right? And who went up after me? The bold Paddy McHugh. And fuck me, he wiped my eye again. And he got the part. And he was Michael Dara in the Shadow of the Glen. And there was a whole pile of rejects left over that didn't get anything. And we were all sitting there kind of saying, well, what happens now? Like, we all wanted to join the Theatrical. And Joe O'Donoghue came up with the bright idea that they should put on an extra play and put the rejects into it. And he decided he'd pick On the Outside by Tom Murphy. So we got to On the Outside, and we had to audition for it. And again, a second time. And I was no better the second time than I was the first time. But they were stuck now for people. So I got the part of Joe, and I was playing alongside the outstandingly brilliant Eamon Kelly, who was Frank, right? And we started rehearsing the play. And it was when we were rehearsing the play that it struck me, I know this play. Now, the play had never been performed outside of Dublin in any sense of form or shape, and I was wondering, and then I began to think of how I know this play. And I can tell you just a little background to the play. It was written in 1959 by Tom Murphy in collaboration with Noel O'Donoghue. And what had happened was, the story goes that the two boys were hanging outside McCormack's Corner, McCormack's Corner, and it's supposed to be that they're waiting for the pub to open. Now, Noel O'Donoghue was a cousin of mine, and he told me later, in fact, that what they were waiting for was, they weren't waiting for the pubs to open at all. What they were doing was, they were avoiding going to last mass. That was the reason. And while they were there, one turned to the other and says, they were bored, what will we do? And Murphy says, well, why don't we write a play? And O'Donoghue says, well, what will we write about? And Murphy says, I don't know. But he says, we're not writing something that's set in a kitchen. At the time, of course, the Abbey was putting on melodrama after melodrama set in kitchens. So O'Donoghue says, well, it'll have to be on the outside, so. And that was where the germ of the idea came from, to write it on the outside. So Murphy did most of the writing. Noel told me. Murphy did most of the writing. And they set it outside a dance hall, of course. And when they were finished with it, they didn't know what to do with it. But at that time, when the All-Irelands were on in Athlone, there was a special section for new scripts. So they sent it off to the ESO competition for new scripts. And it duly won the All-Ireland Award for new scripts. And the bonus for winning it was that it would be aired on RTE radio. And sometime in 1962, I was coming down the stairs in our house. And you know, at that time there was no tellies. And the radio was always on. And there was only one station that you listened to, and that was Radio Éireann. You might try and tune into Hilversum or someplace like that. And every now and again, if there was a starry night, you could get Radio Luxembourg, right? But mostly it was Radio Éireann. And as I walked into the kitchen one evening, I heard this, "It's all right, Sham, they're gone." I thought, what's that? They're after using the word sham. That's a tune word. And I went over and I turned up the radio and was hooked listening to the play. And at the end was astounded to hear that it was written by Tom Murphy and Noel O'Donoghue. And now here I was acting in it, and I couldn't believe it. So we put on the play along with the other acts, the other 3-act plays, all the top class. We were the reject. All the top class people were in the other plays, and we were in On the Outside. And the surprising thing was that Murphy and O'Donoghue came to the play, and it was my first time meeting Tom Murphy. And when it was over, O'Donoghue came backstage and he complimented us for the performances, and he said we had nailed the parts, that we were just like the two lads. Sure, it was only bullshit, you know, but it was a good feeling, like, to hear one of the artists saying you were the boys, like, you know. So the next step was that the plays, Patricia's plays, were being entered into the All-Ireland one-act drama festivals, and to do that you had to go on a circuit, you had to go to various festivals, and if you won a festival or 2 festivals, you get through to the All-Irelands. And it was decided she'd enter hers, and of course the reject says, well, what about us, like? So as a kind of token, we were put in as well. And I remember getting ready we were going to Tubbercurry to put on the one-act festivals, and there was only a minimal set. All it was the dance hall door. And on the way down to Tubbercurry, we cut a bit of furze like, and we had it packed the stage with a few bushels of furze like for the lads to hide behind. And we went down on the way down. So we were packing away the set anyhow. And I clearly remember Sean O'Dea was in this play. Martin Keaton was in it as well. Sean O'Dea was in it. And I think his young lad is here, is he? I have to be careful about what I say. Sean had one line. What's up? Right? And when we were packing the set, Joe Dunham says, have we forgotten anything? And Martin turned to Sean and says, Sean, have you forgotten your line? And I won't tell you what Sean said to Martin. So we went down to Tubbercurry anyhow, and we duly won the festival. And I might add, there's a drunk in that particular play. And I can honestly say, in all my days, I have never seen any actor play a better drunk. Because playing a drunk on stage is very, very difficult. Most people overdo it. And the real secret is to underplay it. But there was a drunk on stage that time, playing the role. And I can tell you this, he was 16 years of age. He had never touched a drop of drink in his life. And to me, to this day, he's still the best drunk I ever saw on stage. Take a bow into work. We went on to win the one act at Tubbercurry, and we ended up going up to Naas I think it was Naas for the one act festivals. All I remember is coming home in Jerry King's car, and the lights failed, and it was a foggy night, and we were kind of crawling along the bog road between on the way into Mount Bellew at about 3 miles an hour. It was a hairy experience, and there was lots of hairy experiences when we went to those festivals. But I can tell you this, that the truth is that I was bitten by the stage, and bitten especially by Murphy. Now, after Murphy had written the play, and once it was aired in 1962, the play languished for a long, long time. And it was never ever seen again until about 1971 or 72. There was an actor on the Reardons. Do you remember the Reardons? Yeah. There was an actor on the Reardons. He was Benji's brother on the Reardons, a fellow called Chris O'Neill. And Chris O'Neill wanted to do something for the Dublin Arts Festival, and he came across on the outside, and he decided he'd put it on, he'd produce on the outside. But the big problem he had was that it wouldn't make a full night's theatre. So he went to Murphy and he says to Murphy, is there anything you have that can go with this? And Murphy had written a short story in the mid-50s, and he says, yes, I have something. And he worked it, and what he did was, he wrote the companion piece on the inside. And they put on the outside and on the inside in the Dublin Theatre Festival. And it actually became the hit of the festival at that time. And the peculiar thing about it was that Joe Dunhill had seen it, and that's where he got the idea for doing on the outside. So we performed anyhow, and we went up to Naas, but we didn't win the All-Ireland because the big problem we had was we had no technique. We were really green actors, like. As good as we were useless. And there was a lot of people up there that had the kind of professional approach, and they had all the technique, so we didn't do any good. But subsequent, of course, to that, we were part now of the Theatrical, and next thing, Patricia King invited us to continue, and I was brought into the next play, and I remember she was absolutely a brilliant producer, brilliant director, but she was a fierce, hard taskmaster. Oh, jeez, she would put you through the ropes, put you through the ringer. And the first time that I was up on the stage doing a reading a part for her, and I was doing my lines, and I was at this, and she said to me, stop swinging! Right? And she nearly jumped out of my skin. And of course, that was the problem. When you're not trained, you know, you tend to sway, and that becomes a distraction for people. She taught us to plant our feet firmly on the ground. She taught us how to stand on stage the right way. She taught us how to make gestures, when to make gestures, when to make facial movements. She taught us all that. She was really hard taskmaster, but she was brilliant. She was absolutely brilliant. And all you could do was shut up and listen and learn from Patricia King. And I can honestly say that she was a brilliant, brilliant teacher of drama, no doubt about it. So after we did that, The next, one other thing I must say about On the Outside was I was in UCG at the time, and there was a guy involved in the Students' Union in UCG, and he had heard about us doing On the Outside, and he invited us to do it up in Terrapin 5. And we went up and we did it in UCG to a full house. And the guy that invited us up at the time later on came to co-found the Galway Arts Festival and became, of course, the manager of the Saw Doctors, Ollie Jennings. Ollie Jennings. So even way back at that time, Ollie was really into art, theatre, music, the whole thing. And he was a brilliant organiser. So after the UCG and the whole lot, the next play that I was asked to go in, next Murphy play that I was asked to go in, was The Sanctuary Lamp. And this was a new play that Murphy had written dealing with the Catholic Church and you know, the issues of the Catholic Church, particularly the history and, you know, the power of the church and things like that. And it actually was a huge success when it was put on in the Abbey. It was absolutely brilliant. It received tremendous praise. Like people like the President Carol Dawley of the day regarded it as the best piece of Irish drama that was ever seen. So Patricia King got the rights of Murphy to do The Sanctuary Lamp, and she decided we'd do it. And as we prepared for doing The Sanctuary Lamp, Patricia got a phone call, and she was called up to the palace, and she was asked what was she doing that play, and didn't she know what that play was about? And Patricia was stunned and taken aback, and she said to the Archbishop, she says, well, have you seen the play? And he said, no. And she said, have you read the play? And he said, no. Well, then she says, you're not in any position to make any judgment or to ask me not to do it. And she walked out the door, and we went ahead and put on the play. And I can tell you, that took fierce courage at that time, right? So, fair play to Patricia, we put on the play, and instead of playing a young man like Joe On the Outside, I was now asked to perform the Monsignor, 60-year-old priest in The Sanctuary Lamp. And another thing I learned from Patricia, of course, was her brilliant skills at applying makeup and how to convert you into a 60-year-old man. Lake was a favourite one anyhow, for putting under the eyes to give you that shadow, and then, you know, white pencil on the eyebrows and brushing them the wrong way, and copious amounts of dry shampoo to dry the hair. I had hair that time, by the way, and copious amounts to dry the hair. And we decided we'd put on the Sanctuary Lamp, and we went on the festival circuit. And one of the festivals we went to actually was Ballyshannon. And I remember there were certain incidences that happened up in Ballyshannon. I can't honestly tell you here, but if you ask me secretly, privately some night, I'll let you know what they were like, okay? It was absolutely fantastic. The crack we had up there was brilliant. But one of the things that happened there was that there was a guy that was in UCG at the same time as I was, and he went along to see the play, and he was absolutely dumbfounded by the Sanctuary Lamp. He just couldn't believe it. And he came backstage afterwards, and when I was removing the makeup, he realised I wasn't a 60-year-old man, I was actually a young fella that he knew from college. And he later told me that the effect of all that, and I've seen the Sanctuary Lamp, convinced him that his life was going to be as an actor. And he became one of Ireland's foremost male actors, Sean McGinley. And it was the Sanctuary Lamp at Tuam Theatrical that inspired him to become an actor. So, and I can tell you that since then I've met the guy, and he's reinforced that story to me. So it's an actual fact that they cited what he saw in Ballyshannon and Tuam Theatrical doing the Sanctuary Lamp. You know, Sean McGinley was inspired by it. Now, and of course it was Murphy. Murphy is the key to it all, right? Now, the other thing about being in the Sanctuary Lamp was I learned to deal with an audience. And I was the priest, and my mass server was Eamon Gertie. And there's a scene in it where the altar is there, and the priest comes out, you're dressed in all the heavy vestments, like you're carrying the chapel hoodlum, you know. You put it down the altar, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. And of course, there was a full house for the Sanctuary Lamp, and a lot of, maybe it was the name of the play, there was a lot of Holy Joes in. I must have thought it was a holy play, like. And there was a lot of Holy Joes. They were all sitting in the front row. One of them that I remember specifically was the great and late T.D. 4. Remember T.D.? T.D. was sitting in the front. So I comes out in the name of the Father, the Son, and T.D. goes, name of the Father, the Son, and the first line I have, of course, is the Lord be with you, waiting for Amen to answer. And also with you, and I go, the Lord be with you, and the whole friggin' audience go, and also with you. And if that wasn't bad enough, as I continued to say the prayers, I realised that Amen, in order to keep his cues going for himself, was actually mouthing the words as I was saying them. Same cues, the same lines I was saying, Eamon was mouthing them. And I looked at Eamon and his mouth was moving to my mouth. And I couldn't look at him, I had to look away. As Eamon was master there, which was absolutely fantastic. So that's how I learned to deal with an audience. And we had some success with the Sanctuary Lamp. I think we might have got to the All-Ireland with it, but we didn't actually do any good with it. But I might remember that the three main characters in it, there was two characters were based from a circus. There was an acrobat, or a strong man and a juggler, and there was one innocent girl as well in it. And the three people that played those parts, and they were absolutely brilliant doing them, were Jerry King, Joe Donoghue, and Mary Stewart, who was unreal as the simple girl in it. And near the end of the Sanctuary Lamp, Murphy's genius was absolutely amazing. It took me a long time to figure this out. Near the end of the Sanctuary Lamp, they're going to stay the night in the church, the three of them, and they need some place to sleep. And the strong man goes over and he pulls the confessional box down off the wall, right? And when you pull it down, of course, there's three compartments, and the three characters get into the three compartments. And it took me a long time. I looked at this play time and time again, and it took me a long time to realise it reminded me of the old Dracula films. You know, when Dracula goes back into his coffin at night time, and that the three compartments were actually three coffins. And this is the vision Murphy had, like. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And the play finishes, of course, with just the Sanctuary Lamp lighting on the stage, and the three people in the three coffins, or as it was, the confession. I asked him once recently, could I do the play, and he said, no, it's too dated, he said, right? And then I realised about 2 years later he had rewritten the thing and put it on himself. I saw it advertised for the Everyman Theatre in Cork. So I must get back to him about that one. Yeah, that's one that I won't escape yet. Now, the next Murphy role that I remember, I might be out of sequence with these a little bit, but the next one that I remember doing turned out to be one of my favourites, and there was a particular reason for it, because I won, I think, 4 Best Actor awards and 1 Best Supporting Actor award doing it. And they don't mean anything really in the end of the day, but at the time what they do mean is they kind of confirm yourself and they give you a bit of confidence at the time, but they don't mean anything but I was fortunate enough to play Dan O'Dea in Famine. Now, those of you that know me know that I've always had a huge bulk on me, and I'm a famine victim in this play, and I'm actually one of the last to die. Maybe that's not too bad, like. You know, you'd say, well, he survived because he had a bit of weight on him. But I had to hide the bulk. And at the time, Lord have mercy on her, but Anne Dwyer was costumes mistress. And she was an absolutely incredible person when it came to doing costumes. And what she did was she dressed me in rags, so that I had kind of, you know, had more bulk than I even looked. And as part of the research, I was looking for photographs of the famine. But the peculiar thing about the British was, even though the camera had been invented, they never took any photographs of famine victims at that time. There's no actual photograph of any people that had suffered in any way from the famine. But what they did have was they had some line drawings, right? And I noticed in the line drawings that the people, of course, were very emaciated and also unhealthy in many ways. And I decided, as part of the character, that I'd give Dan O'Dea a crutch, So I asked the woodwork teacher in school to make a crutch for me. And he made a crutch for me. And it was grand. I was now having something, creating a character with this crutch, right? And it was lovely until we were rehearsing one night, and there was a fighting sequence in the play. And fucking Martin Keaton stood in the fucking bottom of the crutch and broke it. And I ended up down like this, right? And I decided, geez, that's not so bad. And it made me more distorted and twisted, and I kept it. And I do believe Martin Keaton did me a big favour and another small mercy, right? So I was trying to get into this character, Dan O'D. And at the time, Gary Hines was working with Murphy. Murphy was writer in residence for the Druid. Am I going on too long here, by the way? No, Murphy was writer in residence for the Druid. And Druid were going to do a series of Murphy's plays and tour them. This is the first time that they were doing them. And she had planned to do Conversations of a Homecoming. And Joe Donoghue had asked him for the rights of Famine. So he happened to actually mention a tour that we were going to do Famine. And she went absolutely ballistic. She went crazy. I want to do Famine. You can't have them doing Famine. And he says, no, you're doing no, I'm not doing Conversations, I'm doing Famine. And she switched immediately to doing Famine. And he says, well, look, and he says, this is my local group, my local theatre. I have given them the okay to do this. I'm not going back in it. So there was a meeting between us and them, and the net result was it was agreed we would do Famine, they would do Famine, but we wouldn't do it anywhere where they were touring it. So we had then to go off and find festivals far and wide, like Kilty Clogher and Jerry, God help us, you know. And I think we might have gotten into Glenamady because they weren't going down there. You know, nobody goes to Glenamady anyhow, except for dancing. So she put on Famine, and we put on Famine, of course. We snuck up to see what she was doing. Joe Donoghue decided to do it in a surreal way, and he used boxes, just wooden boxes, and no set. Whereas she built a cottage and put in fields and everything, and did the reality thing. And in the end of the day, I have no doubt about it, but Joe Donoghue won that one hands down, absolutely hands down. He was way ahead of what she was doing, no doubt about it. And I'm not knocking her, because she's an absolutely brilliant director. But as good and all as she was, we had one that was better. When it came to doing Dan O'D, I was struggling to find the character for Dan O'D. And he was older, he's an old man. And I was trying to rehearse it, and just one evening when we were doing the rehearsals, who arrives in but Murphy himself. And he's sitting there watching anyhow, and I'm up on the stage trying to do this character, and I'm dropping my voice, thinking it'd make me sound older. And then we had a break in the rehearsals, and he was over near the left-hand window at the front of the stage, and he says, come here, and he says to me, the character of Dan O'D, he says, I want to tell you where it came from. When I was young, he said, I used to go out to my uncle's farm out in Corrafin. And every Sunday we'd go to Mass in Corrafin, and after Mass in Corrafin we'd go into Raftery's pub. And in Raftery's pub there was always this old fella, small, buffy old fella, and he was sitting up on a high stool, and he'd always get involved in the conversation. And the peculiar thing about him was the way he spoke. And I learned from this man that as people grow older, their voices don't become more bass, they actually become more falsetto. So he says, what you need to do is stop dropping your voice and actually raise your voice. So I was thinking about this, and I was out the back, and I was trying to think of how that, you know, and I was trying this and I'm trying that, and I wasn't getting anywhere until I went back up on the stage. Maybe it was the same night, maybe it was another night, I'm not sure. And Jerry King, who was king in the show, had a line, go out to him, Dan. And the answer from Dan O'D was simply A-H, right? That was the cue, right? Go out to him, So he says to me, go out to him, Dan. And I said, right? And where I got that was from a fella that used to drive a lorry in Coca-Cola, and I was his mom back once upon a time, John McGrath. And John McGrath used to say, of course you're not, Dermot. Why? So I decided there and then that was the voice I needed for Dan O'D. So John McGrath became Dan O'D or vice versa on stage. And it was Murphy's tuition and help and guidance that helped create that part for me. And it was something that I was forever indebted to, because it gave me an insight into the real way that Murphy wrote characters and created them and helped to bring them to life. Fanman went on to win 5 festivals, went to the All-Ireland to be favourite and ended up coming last. The adjudicator didn't like it. You know, there's no accounting for taste, right? And after that, I think the Theatre Guild decided, we've enough of those festivals and we're going to pull out of them. And the next play I remember, now I might have the sequence of these wrong, but the next one I remember was, we did a crucial week in the life for Grocer's assistant. And I played the part of Mr. Brown. And we put it on for 5 or 6 nights in Tuam Town Hall. It was a huge success. And then it was transferred to, would you believe it, to Druid Theatre in Druid Lane in Galway, despite everything. And we put it on in Druid Lane. And Patricia King did it, and she did it in the round. The play took part in the middle of the theatre. And all the audience sat around. And she had a line of chairs on the sidewalls. So when you were acting, you sat down on the chair with the audience. And then when it became your part, we went back out onto the stage again. And of course, after doing the nights in Tuam, and then going up and down to Galway and doing it, we were flat tired. And I remember sitting on the chair in the evenings waiting to go on. And I'd be there, and I can't, and I'd be yawning, and the head would be dropping. And I says, Jesus, some night I'm going to fall off this chair before. It was very, very difficult, I can tell you. But we got through it, and it was an absolutely huge success in Druid Lane in Galway. And again, it was a great honour to act in Druid Lane for obvious reasons. It was an absolutely great honour. Ken and Mary were doing the lights, I think, and Panic Jaws was doing the sound, Mary. There was a lady there that was doing the sound, and she used to get all excited, so our Mary christened her Panic Jaws. After that, then there was a split in the Theatre Guild, and Mayhell was formed, and that's another story. And Joe Donoghue then went on to do a couple of plays. One of the first plays he did, of course, was Conversations on a Homecoming. And this time it was done in the Sportsman's Inn. And of course, the Sportsman's Inn had the disco lights and mirrors and everything. It was all fancy. So Joe decided, it's too fancy looking. So we got this beauty board and we covered all the mirrors with beauty board and dumbed down all the lights. And we acted up on the band stage. Right? And all the people were like yourselves there now sitting in the audience with their drinks. And of course, Lord Mercy and Anne, she was the mother in it, or the missus, the boys. And she was bringing in and out the drink. And we were there. And how many pints did you have to drink every night?
3.
3? You liar, you drank about 8 pints every night. Oh, Jesus, missus that pour it himself. And there was it with me, and there was Joe Donoghue, and Casper was in it as well, wasn't he?
Oh.
Yeah, and Fadela, dear pleasure. Yeah. And Jackie Keeley, yeah, that's right, Jackie Keeley. No, he wasn't in that one, no, that was another one. And we were walking away anyhow. And in the middle of this play, like, it's, you know, to get a break, like, you were written out of it, like, to go out the toilet, you know. And I remember going out the toilet one night, you know, and some fellow was, as I was passing out, you had to go down through the audience to go out the toilet. Some fellow to me said, Jesus, I'm busting for a piss myself, I think I'll go and join you. And I'm standing outside paying up all this porter we were drinking, and the man is there. I was playing Liam, the auctioneer, and the man was there. And house prices are double too. You know, you couldn't even get out of the character. And there was some particular well-known lady in this town that had kind of a very, you know, upright opinion. And when she came into the Sportsman's Inn and she saw all this beauty board, and she couldn't understand what's wrong with all the young people in this town that they come down here to this cape of a place for a disco every Friday, Saturday and Sunday night. And she didn't realise, of course, that I was part of the set. You know, so we had great crack with that one too. And after Conversations at a Homecoming, the next one we did was in the Sportsman's Inn again, but this time it was in the garden of the Sportsman's Inn. We put up a tent and we did A Thief for Christmas. And I tell you, this was some show. Oh, jeez, there was about 30 in it. And every single person in that was absolutely brilliant. Mousy did it the first time. We brought it back the second time. Joe Donoghue did the part of the stranger. And then it went on to perform. We went on to performance. Stewie was in that one. Fire away. The part began. And a peculiar thing about Murphy's plays, I have to tell you this, is that the lines that we learned have become part of the conversations over the years. I was just telling Enda was in A Thief for Christmas, and he goes up and he's banging on the counter looking for a pint with a stick, banging on the pint, and someone says, will you give him a pint to me? Next thing it is, I have the money, right? And recently Ali Turner said to me about it, the price of a ticket for the All Ireland was 80 quid, and I just text back to him, I have the money. You know, it becomes, and Ali did the play himself, and it still becomes part of it. Like, it's still part of the lines still come out, and all the people that acted in them. We did The Thief for Christmas, we did it in the tent, and then we brought it to the Theatrical. And Anne Gertie, Lord of Mercy, was the set, our props mistress, and she was absolutely brilliant. Everything had to be spot on. The play is set in an old rural pub back in the 20s, a kind of grocery and bar, and she had everything in it, including salty bacon. Now, I'd say it was alright because it was outdoors down in the tent, down in the sportsman. When we got up to the Tiger, of course, it was indoors, and with the feckin' lights, like, Jesus, the bacon was rotten. And poor old Fidelma came out one night, and she nearly puked her guts out. She goes, what the is that smell? And she got us sick from the rotten bacon. So sometimes you can take reality too far. No doubt about it.
Kevin, there was maggots, small
white maggots on it.
And the poor guy come on seriously.
So it was absolutely, we had a great time with that one. Then eventually, there was another split. And Gateswide was formed. And I was started organising a play. And I decided we'd go back to basics, back to On the Outside. But I had lost the original script, and I had to get a new one. And it had the companion play with it. And when we set up the auditions, so many people turned up, we decided we couldn't do, like the first time, we couldn't just tell people walk away. So we decided, I read On the Inside, and we decided to do the two. And we did On the Outside and On the Inside, in the Imperial Hotel and in the golf club. And fair play, Lord of Mercy and Michael Costello, he was the man that created the set. It wasn't galvanised, but you know that clear plastic? Yeah, he painted that green. And he made it the outside of the dance hall and then moved it back, and it became the inside of the dance hall. And it was, that's right, I was just going to say that, Johnny. We needed somebody to do the band and the announcing. The Lord of Mercy and Johnny Flynn. He came up to Kenny, and Kenny recorded, gentlemen, that's one for next dance, please. That was Johnny doing all the announcing. And Kenny got all the old thrash music he could, like to have the Marvel Tones Orchestra, who played at it. And of course, when we ended up out in the golf club, there was a few of us, like, and we had a session out in the golf club, and Paddy Higgins was involved in that.
Higgins was the first drummer.
He was the first drummer. And we formed the Marvel Tones Orchestra. Oh, jeez, we had some fun with that. Yes, and we performed at the Clifton Arts Festival. It was absolutely fantastic. And we decided to record an album. We hadn't enough songs, so we said we'd call it a half album. So we decided to call it the world's first half album. Kenny Rafe preferred to refer to it as the world's worst half album. I still have copies of the tapes at home, but they're very valuable now, so if you want to buy them, they're talking about you have to have the money, right? Yeah. So that was, we had great crack with the Marvel Tones Orchestra, I can tell you, there was no doubt about that. And the surprising thing about it was, again, and it just shows you the way things happen, Mary O'Donoghue had never seen On the Inside, and she came to the golf club to see it, and she told me that the story that Murphy wrote originally in the 50s was On the Inside. It was a short story, and that he had converted it into the play. But not only that, she said, I typed it up for him, and she typed up many of his plays for him. because Murphy always writes with a pen and ink. And unfortunately, he has Parkinson's now and he can't do that anymore. And she used to type up the plays for him, and he dedicated the short story to her. She was telling me that. But when she saw on the inside, she was completely taken by it. She says, "You have discovered a Murphy hidden gem." And she got on to Murphy and said to him, this is brilliant, the two of these have to be put on again. And Murphy got on to the Abbey, and the Abbey put the two of them on in the Peacock, the little side theatre. And we went up there to see it. Now, they were good. They were good, now. Weren't they? Anybody go up there?
No.
Ah, they were good, all right. But that's about all. And you were up there, Enda, were you? Yeah.
Enda, was the good?
Well, that was the night that Lee Maverick kidnapped the leading actress and brought her back to Tuam. Right? That's right, Lorraine Pinkerton came back on the bus with us. But it was absolutely... Now, in fairness, what I learned from it, in fact, was that people do great job on Murphy. They do. But there's nothing like a Tuam crowd to do a Murphy play. There's not... I don't care what anybody says, there's nothing like a Tuam crowd to do. So, the next time, it's on the outside again. Andrew Kearney came to me, and I had taught Andrew first year English. And when I was teaching in school, they changed the curriculum and you could bring in whatever plays you want. You know, I had no longer had to do The Merchant of Venice. And I was teaching 4F, right? Like 4 means they were the 4th line of first years. And F, you can imagine what was that stood for, right? And I was teaching 4F. And 4F had no interest in The Merchant of Venice. So what I decided to do was I'd pull together all the local stuff that I could. Seamus was one of my people. I brought Seamus's poetry into the classroom. Seamus came in and read for them. And I brought in Joan McBride, and there was a fellow Macbeth, George Macbeth, had written a poem about, it was actually about Mac Gormley, the postman, and I brought that in. And of course I brought in On the Outside. And Andrew, he wasn't in 4F now, but Andrew Kearney had come across On the Outside in first year from the English classes that I had. And he came to me and he says, "Do you know it's 50 years since that was written? We should do it." And I thought, oh jeez, I can't do this again, you know. And then I was sitting at home and I decided, jeez, we better do something. And I decided the best thing to do is do it in a different setting, on the outside. And I called my good friend Eugene, and we went down to the rustic falls, and we were looking at the garden, and I was saying, well, I want it over here. And Eugene turned around and he saw this big shed out the back made of, you know, concrete, and he said to me, what about doing it there? And of course it turned out to be the perfect setting for it. And we did On the Outside. And I have to say, in all fairness, it was one of the most exhilarating theatre experiences, because people could go and drink and smoke and watch it. And not only that, it was performed just a few doors down from Murphy himself. We invited Murphy to come, but he had a new play on in the Abbey at the time, and he couldn't attend. He did send us the best wishes, but Colin told me anyhow, no point in him coming because his aunt had barred Murphy from the pub years before he did get in. So then, most recently, of course, we're all aware that Tuam 400 wanted to honour Murphy, and they asked me to do a play, and I decided this time I'd go back to a crucial week and we'll put it on the Mall, and it was brilliant. I was getting the cast ready for it. I had one problem, and there was one part I hadn't filled. I was down in Tuam Stadium one Sunday, and I was sitting in the press box, and next thing this fella come up to me and he says, "Well, that's no, huh?" And he says, "Have you got a cash for that play?" And I says, "I have, but except one, I'm missing a pension man. Are you interested?" "No, I'm retired." Right? And I said, "Okay." And next thing, Monday morning, 9:30, the phone rings, and he says, "Did you get a pension man?" And I said, "No, I didn't." Well, he says, "If you're looking for one," I says, "Will you do it?" "I will," he says, "I will." And he did it. And he signed the programme, "This is my swan song," and it proved to be, and the Lord of Mercy and Mike again. Yeah. So you can see that, you know, I met Anne through the Theatrical, so there was love and joy and happiness and regret and success and sadness, and there was a wealth of talented people. And actually, because it's a culture night tonight, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to recall, and I hope I don't leave anybody out, but these are the people that I remember. Anne, Noel O'Donoghue, Joe O'Donoghue, Anne Gertie, Margaret Hollyman, Michael Costello, Noel Curran, Tommy the Lips Ward, and Michael Layden. And they all made a magnificent contribution to the arts in Tuam and to Murphy. So we remember them tonight. And I'm going to mention a few of the great actors because I don't think that'd be any harm. And if your name is not included in this, it doesn't mean you're not a great actor. It just means it's time for me to shut up. But I'm going to mention Patricia and Jerry King, and I'm going to mention Enda and Fidelma Burke. Because I have never seen any of those play a bad part or a bad role. Never. And I'm going to mention Tom Kearney because he's so Mr. Dependable and reliable. And Aidan Corliss. And I have to mention Fidelma Barris because I was married to her 6 times. Right? In plays, right, Fidelma. Including Dan O'Dea, she was Cauchie, the wife that I had. And I have to mention Mary Stewart and Eamon Kilkelly. And I have to mention Mary and Kenny Rafe because of their background. And the likes of Margaret Connolly, who never stood on stage except in the small part, but gave it 100% all the time. And Mary Lawler, an outstanding actress, Mary Lawler. And Michael Stewart and Anne Grant and Mousy. And then more recently, people like Thomas Hines and Shane Kelly and Andrew Kearney and Rory O'Connor and our own Mary O'Connor. And new people like Katie St. John and Rory Kitt. And then Paul Kelly for what he did. And of course Susan Garvey and over the Tar was with us. And Ollie Turner did a stint with us. And there's so many people, so many numerous people. And there's one other I mentioned already, but I have to say it. When Michael Costello died, I thought my right arm was cut off when it came to theatre and to stagecraft. And then I discovered it wasn't gone at all. It was only grown. And it has grown into, see there, you know what that hand's name is? Eugene Finney. Has to be that hand. And there is no better man to do your session. And all you have to do is say, this is what I want, Eugene. And he'll come back with it. And it's brilliant. So Eugene. And all those people that work backstage and on lights and on sound and everything, I have to thank all of them. And I'm just wondering now, that if I had gotten the part of Michael Dara in Sing, would I be singing a different song? Oh, that's terrible. But I will say that my mother was right. Be thankful for small mercies. God bless you.
So that's it for tonight. We're going to close with a couple of songs from John Brogan and Amelia O'Connor. But before we do that, I want to thank everybody who took part tonight. Emma Craney, his sister Emily, Mary Rafe, Porrick Stevens, Wayne Dunn, Leah Rosner, PJ King, John Brogan is going to finish this show here with us, Gerald Fahy and Kevin Dwyer, my Murphy, and to everybody who took part tonight or helped in any way, thank you very much. And let's hear it from Mary O'Connor, who took on the task and put this together. Okay, that's it. Thanks a million, and until this time next year. Well, I want to mention one thing. The Sugar Factory is open again, so and the Beat campaign is starting next Thursday, I think, here. So come along and bring the beat. Bring the beat. All right, folks. Round of applause for yourselves for being wonderful to stay here and attend this. And to this time next year, John B, Mary O'Connor. Perfect.
can I just say thanks to everybody for coming, and thanks a million to Seamus for pulling it all together and getting us out of a hole. So thanks a million, Seamus.
We're never flew one wing. You know that story, don't you?
Are you doing beautiful day for Martina? What it?
20th month, Mart?
No.
All right.
This is a song that Martina heard, I think, on Galway Bay FM, was it, Martina?
Yeah.
And it's a song from the 1970s, I think. And it's by a band called Liverpool Express, although she told us it was Express Monkeys or something like that. So we had trouble trying to find it, but found it in the end. But we both learned it anyway, so we'll have a go at it.
Thanks.
It's a beautiful day. I'm feeling so fine. There's love in the air. You on my mind. Today's the day I wanna do the things I gotta do. And if I get a chance, I'd like to do it all with you. It's a beautiful day to wear me a smile. It's one of those days that makes living worthwhile. Today is like a holiday we used to have from school. Running to the beach to be the first into the pool. It's a beautiful, oh, what a beautiful day. It's a beautiful, oh, what a beautiful day. It's a beautiful, oh, what a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. I'm happy inside. What more can I say? I've nothing to hide. And if you have the time, I got so much I wanna say. If nobody will listen, well, I'll say it anyway. It's a beautiful, oh, what a beautiful day. It's a beautiful, oh, what a beautiful day. It's a beautiful, oh, what a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's a lovely song. Isn't it?
Song by James Taylor, yeah?
Nothing. You're anyway, Marie.
You can play the game and you can act out the part, even though it wasn't written for you. Tell me, how can you stand there with your broken heart, ashamed of playing the fool? One thing can lead to another. It doesn't take any sacrifice. Whoa, father and brother, sister and mother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be just fine if you only will. Do as I say, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. can run, but you cannot hide. This is widely known. What you plan to do with your foolish pride? You're all by yourself alone. Once you tell somebody the way that you feel, you can feel it beginning to ease. I guess it's true what they say about the squeaky wheel, always getting the grease. Better to shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be just fine if you only will. Do as I say, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be just fine if you only will. Do as I say, shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna be much better if you only will. There you go, shower the people you love. Yes. Good man, good man. Good man. Yes, good man.
Seriously.
Well,
I'll move it.
will we keep going with James Taylor? Do you feel like singing?